25 years now on radio. It'll be for me in December. I don't really ever remember anything coming down to the wire for the Orioles sort of fighting in this way and having home games and no one going to the games, but I'm watching the games and some of you are watching the games. And, of course, the undefeated Baltimore Ravens headed down to Jacksonville, where you'd like to think they at least have an opportunity to remain undefeated. So big weeks around here, and I figure it'd be a good week to sort of catch up with some old pals. This, of course, one of my pals from many moons ago. He has been a frequent contributor here. He brings up the level of our game around here. He is the Swollen Dome out on Twitter, and one of our defending champions from Fox Sports Radio. We welcome Mike Harmon back onto the program. Michael, what's going on? How's life with the NFL in Los Angeles? It's cool. Like, everyone loves it, right?
Everybody was very excited for Sunday. They'd like to see a touchdown at some point, 3 Zerline field goals, and but a win over Seattle, a team that right now, if you look at them, and for those that didn't see the game, if they get to 500, it's going to be a push.
No, man, seriously, man. Come on. A lot of people were picking them. Over-unders 11 or 12 on them probably in Vegas before the season began, and they were one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. You're down on them after one effort in L.A. when all the stars were out and it looked like a postcard day. Let me tell you this. That was something, right? I remember I was in the Cleveland airport, and I looked up, and I saw the first image of, daylight football, 90,000 strong there, and I'm thinking to myself, and Harmon, you know what I'm talking about. I was there 6 months ago, drinking beer in the parking lot, and the secondhand smell of marijuana was throughout the entire region there during the Bruce Springsteen stand at the LA Sports Arena. I can't even believe it's the same place that they cleaned that place up that way.
Clean it up nicely. NFL puts on a big show. You bring out the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Some friends of mine that went to the game, they had some issues, concession stands running low on stuff, and some fights in the different sections, but that was to be expected. It's Los Angeles, after all. And
you can't expect people to get along, for crying out loud.
No. Look, we'll get back into Seattle in a moment, and their broken offense. It looks a lot like the beginning of last season before they started rolling, although I have to question how Russell Wilson's upright on an ankle sprain that many have said should have kept him out for a month, let alone the 2 practice days that he missed along the way. But we look at what the Rams have been able to do. The defense came with a much better effort. You had 90,000 strong there, just an incredible turnout and excitement for this return to LA, and it's getting embraced. Obviously, after the Monday Night Football game, a lot of downward pressure on the ticket prices. People were hoping to make a mint in the secondary market off the excitement, so that got depressed a little bit, but people still showed up. They still paid out their cash and paid whatever they did to park and enjoyed the throwback jerseys and had a fantastic time. It's swelling a little bit. The ratings, not the robust mark that they hoped for, but again, people getting used to the fact that there's a team back in here. I think the one thing that was the trickle-down effect is people were a little salty because all of a sudden the local games were, they didn't get the national teams anymore. Now it was the local games.
Yeah, a guy like you's looking for the Bears game, you're pissed off, right?
Yeah, if you were used to getting something else on your Sunday viewing experience and you had no interest in the Rams, well, that's going to be an ongoing problem. But slowly but surely, you're seeing the merch out. You're seeing the car flags. And I got to say, they've probably sold more Eric Dickerson jerseys in the last month than they did during the entirety of his retirement years to date.
He is Mike Harmon from Fox Sports Radio talking a little NFL. Let's get into some schedule this week and some games because, this is where it gets fun because you got a couple 2-0s, couple 0-2s, and they certainly don't look very good right now. We're rubbing it in with the Redskins and the Colts and some others that are 0-2 at this point. But, for the Ravens, we're going to Jacksonville. I know it's going to be a different look for Jacksonville. I know everybody was high on them, and then they went to San Diego last week, and the same old Jacksonville thing we start to hear. But for the Ravens to be 2-0 and beat up on Buffalo and beat up on Cleveland, and I know they are, below the bar NFL franchises, to use the John Harbaugh expression, but they've done things pretty well at various points. Other than the breakdowns early defensively in the first game, they've been good, or second game, they've been good. I like what the Ravens are doing right now. I don't think they're 2-0 and all muscled up to be a 13-win team, but I think they're 2-0 and certainly capable of winning this kind of a game in Jacksonville.
Yeah, this one is really a test, and we start wondering how hot the seat starts to get under Gus Bradley. They spent a lot of money on defense. Offensively, they thought they'd be fine. We still don't know what was wrong with Chris Ivory that put him in the hospital last week. And T.J. Yeldon has more runs of 0 or negative yards than he does positive ones through 2 weeks of the season. So you got a lot of problems to sort out there. They thought they'd get balance, and they thought the defense would show up. Well, the defense is getting wrecked, and offensively, it's looking like the same thing. Blake Bortles last year had tremendous fantasy numbers, and even last week, the numbers look fine unless you watch the game and realize when they came. When it's winning and losing, that's not the way you're chasing because you make early mistakes and can't get your offense off the mat. And that's been the story of their team since the beginning of 2015. Positives because you actually have some playmakers, but it's coming too late in catch-up mode. And here against Baltimore, with Joe Flacco throwing the deep ball, they'll be able to jump on them again. And we'll see what Bortles and Bradley have in store at home, but it's certainly a good spot right now for the Ravens. One thing to figure out is how to start getting a push on the O-line for the run game, get a little more balance, get that yards per carry up, and then perhaps you're looking at a team that does become that much more formidable.
Mike, the Philadelphia Eagles were impressive the other night, and, I've always kind of been neutral on the Eagles. I don't, hate them the way I didn't like the Cowboys and the Redskins in that division. Sort of like the Giants, I was neutral. Then I started meeting Eagles fans, and with everyone that you meet, you like the team a lot less, especially if you experience a game up in Philadelphia. But, Schwartzy's there now. That's my boy. So I don't, want to see bad things. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to be a pretty big Philadelphia Eagles fan this week and taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. This game's in Philly. You talk about fights in the stands and all. I'm sure we'll have all that nonsense going on. But this is an unusual matchup. They don't play much each other. They're both 2-0. It's the battle for the state of Pennsylvania. Obviously, some political ramifications there as well in early November. But this will show a lot about the Eagles, and my sense is the Steelers are really good. That's my sense.
Yeah, it's going to really expose a lot of what the Eagles are. I mean, from Carson Wentz, the hyperbole, let's just build him a bust and send him to Canton now after beating what might be the two worst teams in the NFL, the Bears and the Cleveland Browns. Bears walking wounded on defense. Cutler goes down with a thumb injury. Wentz stood in tall. He took some shots early on, and if there was one piece of advice everybody would give to the youngster, learn to play for another day. Don't take the extra hits. Even when he was running out of the pocket, was still absorbing big hits. Kept getting up, to his credit, but that's going to be a problem. And he's had some of the similar red zone issues that I think we've seen with Kirk Cousins through the first 2 weeks of the season, where it's a bit of indecisiveness and a bit of unwillingness to try to push into the end zone, right? To push when a receiver's cover and trusting that he's going to make a play, and then the red zone sputters. Now, in this one, by time the Bears were getting into the second half, I think half the starting defense was off the field, so they just let Ryan Matthews run. But to this point, you got to be impressed with what the rookie's done, and considering that he didn't get to play a lot in the preseason. Peterson's using him well, mixing things up nicely, some good groupings, packages, giving him some advantageous looks. So now we'll see if that can continue here against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh in the secondary, one of the questions coming into the year already with 15 passes defensed, which is a pretty big total through 2 weeks of a season.
Well, we're starting to see the bad teams too, right? I mean, and I know you're a Windy City guy. I know you're a Chicago guy. Boy, wow, them, Buffalo, Cleveland. I don't want to put the Redskins in that category. I'm not ready to junk the Colts or the Jaguars to that degree. But there are a couple of really, really stinker franchises out there where you're wondering, where's their first victory coming?
No, that's the big question. I mean, for Cleveland now, you move on. Cody Kessler, the starter. McCown, give them all he had. You saw it last week. Big first quarter, and then a whole lot of nothing. The injury goes down. Now they signed Charlie Whitehurst, the man with the best hair of any backup quarterback in perhaps NFL history as you go through. But they're a mess. They've got some nice component parts. Love the speed receivers. The Coleman kid is going to be a star. You get Gordon back in 2 more weeks. There's a lot to like, and even Barnage, quiet in this one, but is a guy that's a force down the middle. And the thought was that with McCown under center, he'd get a chance to shine. But with Kessler, now it becomes the tight end becomes your best friend. With the Bears, a lot of injuries, a lot of questions of whether Cutler's going to be back. Story broke early after the game that Lamar Houston's probably done for the year with an ACL. You've got Trevathan injured. So defensively, what John Fox wants to do is run the ball and play defense and not have Cutler have to force the ball down the field. Well, he won't have Cutler. It'll be Brian Hoyer. But Langford is running in mud. Got the 1-yard touchdown run on Monday night, but that was about it. You see the rookie Howard looked solid, but I don't know that they're ready to hand the reins to him yet. Offensive line's already banged up. The Bears are probably going to be good enough to play spoiler once or twice and screw things up in the division, much like Detroit, but nothing much more than that. Indianapolis, look, I've been the leader and probably built the biggest soapbox to talk about the overrated status of Andrew Luck.
But I don't think they're at risk of going 4-12. I don't believe that.
No. Well, I mean, it would take a lot, but the division's gotten a lot better. You know what? For years under Peyton Manning, and people have to take it into account. With Peyton Manning there, and obviously Tom Brady doing the same in the East with a bunch of inept front offices, they took advantage of a division. Now the AFC South isn't standing behind anymore. Tennessee's not great, but they're much improved. They've got some weapons offensively.
I think the Texans might be for real. I mean, if that kid can play quarterback and they can run the ball a little bit, I mean, they're going to be really stingy defensively. That's obvious.
Well, that defensive front is scary. You got Clowney playing some good football. J.J. Watt is, he's J.J. Watt. I don't want to go into the hyperbole because everybody will do that in 1,000 words or more for me, so we'll leave it at that. And Merciless played great football. Defensive player of the week 1, terrorizing the Bears offensive line, and Jay Cutler made some big plays for them against Kansas City. If those 3 guys can stay healthy, and Osweiler, look, he's taking his shots downfield when they're available. You got Miller, you got Will Fuller, the speedster out of Notre Dame. He's gonna frustrate you because he's gonna leave some on the carpet. And he caught one against the Bears, a screen pass, but also left one on the ground that would have been an easy walk-in touchdown. So we'll see if going forward, how much they're able to use him, and assuming Hopkins and Miller stay healthy, they're dangerous. So the division's not there for Indianapolis anymore. The days of going 5-1 against those 3 teams is gone.
Well, I guess it's a good thing Howie Roseman accepted the phone call that you just didn't take when the Minnesota Vikings called, right? I mean, you talk about 2 franchises that were both sort of maligned in some way for the offseason that the Eagles had. Certainly the Vikings in missing kicks and opening a new stadium and, all of that. And winning a division last year and having that sort of pressure on them. They've come out of this nicely. I mean, really, I pull for them. I pull for Mike Zimmer. The Peterson injury, not a good look there. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but they've been pretty resilient through the first 2 weeks. They're kind of spunky, those Minnesota Vikings, in their new digs.
Well, you know what? I picked them before all the injuries to represent in the NFC title game. I actually picked the Giants there. I don't know if that was just a lot of wishing and hoping, but we were trying to go with a little bit off the radar kind of picks. But you look at Minnesota, it was all built, and we went through the analysis on them as the Bradford trade went down. It's like you had Peterson, who you don't know how long he has left, and obviously now that's become an even bigger
Well, you knew the
question.
best tread was off of his tire, right? It would have to be, right?
But sure, but given the state of running backs in the NFL, still one of those guys that you had 1 or 2 years left, you thought. An awful week 1, gets hurt in week 2. But you thought with him, the defense they've assembled, one thing Mike Zimmer can do is coach defense. Whenever people thought of Teddy Bridgewater and whether he'd break through and become this big downfield thrower with Diggs, who I liked quite a bit, so it's good every once in a while to put your name on the right guy to break out and become a star, at least short term. You had a couple of guys with Rudolph that maybe they'd be able to stretch the field, but the defense would keep them in games. And so far, they've been dominant. They made Aaron Rodgers look like a rookie on Sunday Night Football, and we'll see what they have going forward. But 5 straight years as a coordinator or head coach where he's coached a defense with 40 or more sacks.
All right, man, let's get out of football, Mike Harmon, the Swollen Dome, out on Twitter and Fox Sports Radio. Let's get on to baseball here. Let's start with the crowd thing, right? And I was out in Cleveland last weekend. The Indians played simultaneously with the Browns at 1 o'clock on Sunday. There were a lot of Tigers fans in town. It was really tough to get a hotel room in Cleveland. Tigers brought their 6,000 to 8,000 fans with them over the weekend. The Indians drew their, 18 or 20. And, the stadium looked not full, not 1995 or 97 Cleveland, certainly not what's going on in Toronto or, what we see on a nightly basis in San Francisco and on the north side of Chicago and some other winning places. But, Representative, here in Baltimore, meanwhile, this week, I don't want to say it's a national embarrassment. National embarrassment's when you have riots and your city gets shut down and your owner decides to play a baseball game that no one can attend, that leads the national news every night with how effed up Baltimore is, looking like some sort of bizarre Middle Eastern police state last year. But all that being said, no one's going to the games, Mike Harmon. You've been to Baltimore. I know more about it than you do having been here, but from the outside watching it, I've talked to people around the country. They're bringing it up with me more than I'm bringing it up with them lately.
Well, that's just it. You think even with football back in session, competitive team brings crowds, especially
that's
now.
The history of the world, right? That's the
extra wild cards. Even though kids are back in school and whomever's coming to visit family or taking their run of East Coast ballparks aren't there in September. I get it. We just this is an outlier. Because even here, Los Angeles, we have football now, but the Dodgers are still packing them in. Most people that should be, they can't watch and listen to Vin Scully on TV. So, you have that working against you. But they're still lining the ballparks. There's still over 3 million in attendance for the year. So to see what's happening in Baltimore, a team still fighting for a playoff berth, you kind of wonder what else is behind the scenes. Is it enough people that have decided they're not giving ownership money? Can you find the right polling mechanism to find out if that's truly the genesis?
Well, they haven't discounted anything. They haven't, given Luke and I discuss this all the time. I mean, why I don't go is well documented. It's the owner. Not everybody feels that way about them. I mean, they should, quite frankly. If you've been around long enough and you've had it squirted in your eye long enough, you decide, well, here's my hat. I love the team. I watch them. I opine. I don't feel like they're my team or, the way I did 20 years ago when, maybe I do the way when the Ravens are around. I mean, that's a great divide. One team treats me like garbage. The other team is swabbing the whole team on Friday for the bone marrow registry. It's a different dynamic, and it's not just that I'm the only one that gets mistreated. The Orioles have mistreated all sorts of people in all sorts of ways at a sponsorship level, losing on the field, players committing suicide who've been with the organization 38 years. I mean, things have happened around here that have really sparked some feelings, and then there are the riots, then there's the raising ticket price. And there's a million reasons, but in the end, you're in charge of your brand. If nobody's coming and nobody's there and you need to do something about that. And I don't know what that something is. I mean, they give away trinkets, they give away T-shirts, give away bobbleheads, the Jim Palmer statues, Jim Palmer shirts. People will come for that stuff, but you're charging $12 to see the Red Sox and see David Price pitch on a Thursday night, and no one wants to go to the game.
Well, that's one of the great enigmas, right, as you go through. I mean, obviously, in Oakland, the worst facilities still owned and operated in all the professional sports.
I think the Rats are holding that one up, right? I mean, literally, right?
I believe they literally are holding it up at this point. Between that and Qualcomm, you've got two things in California because of the way politics works where you're not getting any money. With the Orioles, when you start adding in where you don't have those obvious ties to a lot of local benefactors, businesses, to where there's, hey, come in and incentivize folks with tickets and things of that nature. There is the trickle-down effect that occurs. And even here in L.A., where, everything's, 9 times the price, there still are ticket deals, right? Even in these final series, it's like, hey, come out and get a Hello Kitty thing and you can go sit in left field for, $8 or $10. I mean, they're still doing everything they can, knowing that between parking and concessions and the novelty hat that you'll end up buying that they'll make their cash. So,
well, the Vince Scully thing's been a big thing for the Dodgers, but winning has been a bigger thing for the Dodgers, right? I mean, people come out for Vince Scully, that's nice, but they would come out because the team's winning and they're good, right?
You know what, though? But they were still coming out during the train wreck years of the ownership problem, and that was they wasn't to the same fervor that it is this year, and the team that, as you watch the Giants implode with 30-plus blown saves out of their bullpen, people relishing in that, but you still had people packing the ballparks because that's their team, that's their identity. And here you got to try to figure out at the core what's changed the identity in Baltimore. That is it just merely the novelty of going to Camden Yards is worn off? Can't imagine that's it. You got enough ball players that are national headliners and guys that are on the highlight reels with great regularity. So it's not that. So it's doing the deep dive, Nestor. Here's your journalism hat. Go buy a nice fedora and put a press, note card up in the top.
Well, the Giants-Dodgers thing took on a little fisticuffs the other night too. I mean, certainly some bad blood there. And boy, the Giants are sinking like a rock. They might not even be in a tournament.
Yeah, Madison Bumgarner once again getting himself into some fights. This is a continuing thing with him, and I don't know that as much has been made about it as it should. But coming into the year, the Dodgers were the team that everybody was going, this bullpen's going to stink. And early on, they had their issues. But as the season wore on, a lot of their starters go 5 innings. They're 5-inning guys. They're all number 4, number 5s. Most places here, they're all number ones and number 2, particularly when Kershaw went down. And the bullpen has been lights out. For San Francisco, anything but. 5 of 9 save opportunities early in September, blown to 30 overall. And, even in that start, Bumgarner goes 7 innings, has the little dust-up with Puig, comes out of the game. Puig was the only guy to have a hit off him. He hit 2 batters, struck out 10, 0 walks, gets lifted after the 7th inning. 97 pitches thrown. Immediately, the Twitterverse is outraged. I'm on air on Fox Sports Radio with Jason Smith in between cursing about the fate of the Bears. There I am wondering aloud why Madison Bumgarner has been removed from this game because the bullpen is nothing but sure, and that was a necessary win, falling even further behind in the race for the division. And even if you give that up, the Dodgers' magic number dwindling very quickly, you're going to be out of contention for the wild cards as well. And Bruce Bochy's going to have a lot of explaining to do as to how he's managed that bullpen this year.
He is Mike Harmon. He's the Swollen Dome out on Twitter and the tag team partner, Jason Smith, as well at Fox Sports Radio. And you can tune them in anywhere the internet is served, as well as out on Twitter at Swollen Dome. Always great having you on, bro. We got our hands full around here. We got an undefeated football team. The Terps are undefeated. The Redskins are winless. And the Orioles might make the playoffs. I mean, these are the good times, man. It doesn't get much better than this.
Well, you got to ride them out while they're there, right? Meanwhile, I'm a Northwestern fan, a Bears fan, and a White Sox fan. My world sucks as a sports fan.
You've had a couple parades in your time. Come on, it comes and it goes, man. It could be worse. You could live in, like, Philadelphia or something.
Well, that is true on a couple of things because, the Chicago accent is much easier to do as well if you want to do the impersonations. But, yeah, it's good times, and we got to get our journalism hats on. We got to find out and start going door to door in Baltimore to figure out why they won't go to the ballpark. That's on us, Nestor.
I'll figure it out. It is up to the real journalist to get to the bottom of this story. Michael, be well, man. We'll see you out on the West Coast soon.
Talk to you soon, buddy.
He is Mike Harmon from Fox Sports Radio joining us here. You can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Download the TuneIn Radio app, our morning newspaper, powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Go check that out. Sign up at 7 a.m. It comes to your email inbox. And last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.